So VApril is upon us, and during this month we are inviting all of the non-vapers to take another look at vaping and give it a try. Try putting down those cigarettes, give it a shot, and also to dispel a lot of the misinformation and rumors that are out there about vaping. So in order to help with this process, here are some of the questions that new vapers have, and we're going to give some answers here on what they are. What is vaping? Well, this is vaping. Vaping is the inhalation of a vapor generated by heating e-liquid. Now, you get your e-cigarette or your vaporizer device. It has a coil in there that is a heating element. You have your liquid that goes onto that coil. The liquid is boiled and produces a steam or a vapor, and you inhale that. That is vaping. So what is an e-cig or a vape kit? What actually is it? Well, all these devices are made up of the same three components. You've got your battery that provides the power. You've then got your clearomizer or your tank, which holds the e-juice and also holds the coils, and the coils are the third part. You've got your coils and your wicking, which is usually cotton, which provides the juice. Feeds the juice into the coil, and the coil heats up and generates the vapor. Now, there are different variants of this. You get things like your cigalites, which are the ones that look like cigarettes, light up at the end, and you also, which are still the same design. You've still got your battery there and your clearomizer and the coils in there, and it heats it all up. You've got things like your pod system, very similar to that, except you can, with some of them, you can put your own juice in. Then you move up and you've got the vape pen style, which is the battery with the sort of clear top. You see them about a lot. They're a very common sort of entry level device. You then have things like mod kits, and once you get into the mod kit level, there's a lot of variation going on. You've got variable wattage, variable voltage, you've got temperature control, got all these different options within there. This is a mod kit, for example. This one holds 3 big batteries. It runs quite a lot of wattage. It has different modes as well for temperature control, and it's just got a big tank on here. The pre-built coils are in there. You can kind of see them in there where the white bit is in the middle. That's the wicking agent, and this one just vapes away no problem. We then got other kinds of mods as well. You've got things like this. This is a mech mod, so all this is a tube with the battery inside, and then you've got a tank on the top, and just works the same as well. And then you've got other ones as well, like a skunk mod. So this one's actually really useful because I can actually show you the insides on this one. So there you go. You've got your big battery right here. This bottle contains the juice, and then you've got an RDA at the top. And the RDA is a rebuildable dripper atomizer. That's what RDA stands for. But essentially it means that the coils that are in here I make myself, and the wick goes in, and if I hit the fire button here, you will see that's it generating the vape. So that's how it works. That's what all of these devices are like. There is some variation on design, but the principle is the same for all of them. So what is e-liquid? Well, this is e-liquid is the juice that you actually use in your tank, drip onto your coils, or however you're vaporizing. That's what you use in order to generate the vape. What is it made up of? Well, there's only 4 ingredients in there. So you've got your vegetable glycerin, which is your VG, your PG, which is the propane glycerol, your flavorings, and then the 4th ingredient, which is actually an optional ingredient, is your nicotine. So what do all of these ingredients do? So the VG, or the vegetable glycerin, that is used to produce the actual clouds. That's a lot better at producing the clouds. It doesn't carry the flavor quite as well as the PG, and it's not as good as binding everything together as the PG, which is why you've got the PG in there. It does bind everything together, and it does carry the flavor really well. So you want the 2 of those in some sort of ratio. There are different ratios available. You can get 50-50 all the way up to 100% one way or the other. The versions I tend to use are the 70-30, 70 PG, 30 PG, or 80-20. And those are the two that I tend to stick to, because you get the nice balance between the flavor coming and the clouds coming out. So it's a nice sort of blend there. The next ingredient is the flavoring. Now, majority of e-juice producers do use food grade materials for their flavoring. Just check your labels. As long as it's food grade material, it should be fine for you. Shouldn't be any chemicals in there, shouldn't be anything like that. If you do get chemical taste, just double check your labels, make sure it is all good. And the final ingredient is your nicotine. Now, nicotine is an optional ingredient. You can get zero nicotine e-juice. So for example, this one right here, because it is a bigger bottle, this came as zero nicotine, and I had to add in a nicotine shot to bring this up to the level I like. If you're not sure what I'm talking about with nic shots, go check out my video on those. I've done a separate video on nicotine shots, what they are and how to use them. So go check that out. I'll put a link up for that. But once you've got your e-juice all mixed up, ready to go, that's it, you're good. And that's what an e-juice is. So when should you change your coil? Well, this is all subjective, and it's all down to your own personal tastes. Depending on the device that you're using, it will also depend on how often you need to change your coil. So for example, right here, this is the Big Baby Beast from Smok. It's got pre-built coils in it, you can see them in there, and these coils run at a wattage range of 40 to 80 watts. So depending on what juice I'm using and what wattage I'm running, depends on how much life I can get from these coils. If I'm running it at the higher end of the wattage and I'm using a really thick PG juice, I'll be lucky to get 5-6 days out of the coil. However, if I'm using a high VG juice and running it at the lower end of that wattage scale, then I could get a month from the same coil. It really depends on how you're using your device. So if you are using it sort of in the mid-range of the recommended wattage for that coil, then you're more likely to get the sort of extended life there. I have a friend who's used the same coil for 2 months with no issues. It really depends on how you're using them. If you're doing a rebuildable device, so something along the lines of this one here, where the coil is something that I make myself and I put in there, really that's an indefinite life on that, because what you can do with that is take the wicking agent out, take the cotton out, clean the coil up, and then it's good to go again. But with the rebuildables, once you're into the sort of rebuilding your own coils, you do tend to change them quite often just because you want to put in a new coil and try a different build. So really it's a personal preference, and just be aware that that burnt toast flavor, when you start getting that, you know that's time to change your coil. Will vaping save me money? Well, yes. The simple answer is yes. If we break down the costs on this, so you can purchase a vaping device for about £20. So £20 to buy a fairly good starter kit. So you've got your initial outlay of £20. So you need to get a pack of coils as well. We'll say another £10 for them. They will last, depending on usage, 1 or 2 months. So we'll take 2 months. So £20, £30 for 2 months. Then you need your e-liquids. Now, depending on device as well, this will depend on how much e-liquid you're going to use. So there are a lot of deals out there where you can get 200-300 milligrams for about £20. So if we say that 300 milliliters for £20, add that into our existing £30, that's £50, and we'll say that will last 2 months. So 2 months for £50. Now, how much is a pack of cigarettes? It's about £10. If you're a 20-a-day smoker, that is £10 a day. So 2 months vaping is £50. 1 week of smoking is £70. You do the maths. Will my vape explode? No. Most devices that you get these days, they have a lot of safety features in them. So if you're getting the likes of a Cigalite, if you're getting a vape pen, if you're getting a kit like this, a regulated mod kit, then you're going to have safety features in it. This one, for example, has a Timeout, if you're vaping on it too long, it cuts out after so many seconds. I think it's 10. It's also got safety protections for the tank, so if there's a short circuit, if it's under the recommended ohms, if it's over the recommended ohms for the resistance of the coil, then it's not going to fire and it breaks the circuit, so there's no chance of the battery draining the power. Where it's a little bit different is if you're onto the mechanical mods, so things like the Pulse here, which is a mechanical squonk mod, or this little mechanical tube device, which is essentially a tube with a battery in it. Now, the difference here is that you're taking the power direct from the battery into your coil. There's nothing in between. So when you're doing that, you need to know things like Ohm's law and how that relates to the resistance of your coils, and also know about your battery and what the limits are for that battery. So, for example, the battery I've got in here will easily run down to 0.18 resistance, but the coil I've got in here is a 0.22. So this is definitely safe to use. It's not going to draw too much power from the battery. If I was to put in a coil in here that had a resistance of 0.1, that is below what the battery can handle, and doing that means that it's drawing more power from the battery than the battery can actually do, and doing that can cause the battery to overheat and lead to what's called venting, and that is when the battery would explode. So only in that situation is it possible to blow your battery. Most regulated devices, there's no chance of this happening. It's only when you're using mechanical mods. And if you are going to go down the mechanical mod route, you need to know things like your Ohm's law, like your battery resistance, your battery tolerances, and you need to know about battery safety. Another thing on battery safety, if you are carrying batteries around, these devices, they all use 18650 batteries or 2700 batteries, and they are quite big, chunky batteries. So here is an 18650. As you see, it's quite a bit bigger than a AA, and these can be recharged. You can use them in multiple devices, but if you're going to be carrying them around, don't carry them loose in your pocket. If you get a connection made between the positive and the negative, that will create a circuit, and that can cause a short circuit because you've got no idea what the resistance of that would be. So if you do want to carry additional batteries around with you for any reason, invest in one of these. A little battery case. I got 6 of these on Amazon for £6, plenty, very, very cheap. And these things will protect the batteries when you're carrying them around. There's no way that a circuit can be caused with these. There's plenty of other options out there for getting these. But that's the thing to be aware of if you are moving down the mechanical route, battery safety and Ohm's law. But if you're just starting out, I don't recommend getting into that right away. It's something that you will build to. When you're on the regulated mods, like the Cigalikes, like the pen devices, like the big mods, you're going to be fine. No chance of battery venting there. Is vaping safer than smoking? In a word, yes, it's safer. There are a lot of studies that have been put out, both saying it is and some saying it's not. But if we look at the true studies, the ones that have actually looked in depth, the proper studies that have done, so the Royal College of Physicians for one, they did a study all the way back in the 60s and 70s about smoking. They're the guys who initially told us that smoking was bad. And they came out in 2016 with a report saying that vaping is 95% safer than smoking. And that is a really good report. Go read that if you want to. It's available online. But they've said that, and there have been studies since then. There have been other studies that are saying it's not so good, but those studies don't tend to have much information in them. They don't tell us what devices are being used. They don't tell us what e-juice is being used. They don't tell us the comparisons. They don't tell us how much vape is actually being used in those studies. So if you see any of these studies, question it. Make sure you can see the sources and see exactly what's going on there. A couple of good resources for vape information. There's vapril.org. That is a campaign that's being run through the month of April in the UK. helping people get some good, clean information about vaping, and to get people to try vaping for the first time if you've not already tried it. So jump on over there. There's also that campaign is actually being run by the UK Vaping Industry Association. That's the UKVIA. They've also got a website. Jump on over to them. They've got loads of great information on there. All the studies, all the research is being shown on that site. Jump on over. I'll put the links in the description for this video, so feel free to go read as much as you want on there. But in a nutshell, yes, it is safer than smoking. What is popcorn lung? Well, popcorn lung doesn't mean that your lungs are going to fill up with popcorn. It doesn't mean that they're going to turn into popcorn. It's actually an illness, kind of a bronchial illness, like bronchitis or something like that. And it's caused by a chemical called diacetyl. Now, diacetyl is a chemical that's used in the production of popcorn. It gives that buttery flavor, hence the name popcorn lung. The first cases that were reported of this were from workers in a factory in America that worked in a popcorn factory, hence where the name has come from. Now, this chemical diacetyl was used for a time within e-juice, especially sort of your creamy, buttery e-juices. Now, it has been taken off the market. It's no longer in any e-juices. A lot of e-juice companies will say no diacetyl included. It was a flavoring that was used for a while. But it has been off the market for some time once this was found to be a cause. Now, another side note on this is diacetyl is present in cigarettes. It's a chemical that's actually in your cigarettes that you smoke away at, and it's way more prevalent than it was ever prevalent in e-juice. So every cigarette contains diacetyl. Most e-juices now do not. So popcorn lung is not really an issue. It shouldn't be an issue at all. If you have any concerns, check your e-juice labels. Just make sure there's no diacetyl in the e-juice and you'll be fine. So what is mouth to lung and what is direct lung? Well, these are two different types of way to inhale your vape. Now, mouth to lung is, as the name implies, taking the inhale into your mouth, then taking a smaller inhale of air after, just to pull it down into your lungs, and then exhaling. This is very similar to the way a lot of people smoke, where they just smoke into the mouth and mouth to lung. And it goes a bit like this. So you see, it's not a massive amount of cloud that's being produced from it. It's also very good for if you want to taste more flavors doing the mouth to lung. You do find on the lower wattage devices, things like your cigarettes, things like your vape pens, the mouth to lung is the way to actually use them. But if you're onto like the bigger sub-ohm tanks like this, direct lung is the preferred method. And with direct lung, what you're doing is inhaling the vapor straight down into your lungs. You can take longer draws and you can produce those bigger clouds, and it looks a bit like this. So you see massives of vapor there, much longer draw able to do, and still getting all that flavor come through as well because there is so much more vapor. Don't worry too much if you're not able to do the direct lung straight away. It did take me about a month of vaping to actually master that technique. But if you do want to master it, it's just a matter of practice, and once you get it, you will find that you're able to blow the big clouds. You're able to enjoy your vape a lot more, but you will use a lot more vape juice. Just be aware of that. You will use a lot more e-liquid when you start doing direct lung hits. So that was quite a long video there. A lot of questions getting answered. If there's something that I've not answered there, if you've got a question, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'll either answer them directly or I'll make a follow-up video answering any additional questions. VApril is going on in the month of April here in the UK. There's a lot of stuff going on for VApril with that. Jump on over to their website, www.vapril.org. There's going to be loads of stuff on the channel here that I'm going to do related to VApril. I'm going to do some cheap mod reviews. I'm going to do some giveaways. I'm going to go to some vape shops and talk to some people. I'm going to question some people randomly as well, see what their perceptions of vaping is. So feel free to subscribe to the channel, check out that content as it comes out. I also do a daily vlog. I do other vape related videos, so I do reviews, I do previews, I do vape questions, I do vape news, so there's loads of vaping content on the channel there. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. Also hit that like button if you like this video and if you want more. So all the usual, like, comment, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon up and running, so jump on over there, take a look. It's www.patreon.com/purplemongoose. Go check that out. Follow me on Twitter @OnePurpleMongoose. You can jump on there, send me a tweet, ask any questions that you've got about vaping that weren't answered here. And as ever, vape on.